Now wait a minute, Doc. Are you telling me that it's 8:25 in the morning?
Precisely.
Damn, I'm late for school. "40 years ago, Back to the Future was released in theaters, and it sits still today as a true game changer in science fiction." Now, this is a movie I've wanted to talk about for a long time on this channel, ever since I started doing this thing 5 years ago. I mean, I've been doing YouTube for long enough now where it feels like I've already talked about this movie. But looking back through my archives and getting back into the time machine, I definitely have not yet, which is insane to me. So this was, of course, directed by the great Robert Zemeckis, and it stars the legendary Michael J. Fox and the impeccable Christopher Lloyd. Michael J. Fox plays a small-town California teen named Marty McFly who is thrown back into the 1950s when an experiment by his eccentric scientist friend Doc Brown, played by Christopher Lloyd, goes awry. Marty is traveling through time in a modified DeLorean car, which for the time was a great idea. A time machine that is posing as a car. A futuristic car, if you will. And while he's in 1955, Marty is encountering young versions of his parents, played by Crispin Glover and Leah Thompson. His mother ends up falling in love with him, which is super uncomfortable. So that's an obstacle for Marty, who has to make sure that his parents fall in love or he'll cease to exist. And Marty also has to return to his own time to save the life of Doc Brown, who was viciously slaughtered by terrorists during the experiment. So this movie has a lot at stake. And as silly as a time travel movie might have been in 1985, I'm sure there were other pieces of entertainment that dealt with this subject matter. I'm sure there were books, comics that were out in the time that experimented with this topic, no pun intended. But I feel like Back to the Future was the first movie to really popularize it. And since 1985 and the 40 years since its initial release, many of big blockbusters have tried to go off of the Back to the Future formula for some of their big stories. I can think of Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban. That climax deals with time travel, which is very much like Back to the Future. Avengers Endgame jokes with the fact that they're dealing with time travel, and Don Cheadle even says something like, "Oh, so we're just gonna Back to the Future this shit?" It's almost like because this movie was so incredible and so game-changing, it's almost become a part of every film lover's lingo. And even though, yes, the sets do very much feel like they are fabricated, you can see this actually on the Universal Studios tour. And a lot of the production design can feel very dated for a lot of people. It is undisputed that this movie still holds up pretty darn well. The effects don't feel like they've aged a day. How the DeLorean travels through time, getting up to a speed of 88 miles per hour. And Doc, how much power does this DeLorean need?
1.21 gigawatts! 1.21 gigawatts! Great Scott!
Like, the stipulations can feel pretty complicated in this movie, but you're still able to follow everything incredibly well. And again, technically speaking, I'd be remiss if I were to leave out the fact that Robert Zemeckis directed this film, and he does so masterfully. The shot composition, the editing, everything that went into this movie, how the movie looks. No notes on the technicalities. This movie still looks really damn impressive, and if there's ever a time where this is playing in a movie theater, if there's ever a time when I can go to a drive-in and experience this like I have before, I am on that shit. Because even though I was not alive in the 1980s, this movie, like, for lack of a better term, it feels like a time capsule. It feels like an encapsulation of what each era that the movie explores was. And Back to the Future really captures both time periods exceptionally well. Like, you don't need the super text at the bottom to tell you what time you're in. You can just look around at the set design, you can listen to the score, and you can just feel the difference. And while we're on the subject of music, Alan Silvestri was the one who composed the music for this. The theme, iconic. And this was Silvestri's first big score, and he would become a frequent collaborator with Robert Zemeckis since the inception of this film. And he would go on to do the 2 sequels, which I am thinking of discussing, in addition to Forrest Gump, Contact, Polar Express, Castaway, Who Framed Roger Rabbit. He also composed the music for the Avengers movies. The list goes on and on. The man's a legend, and I feel like this is the movie that really kickstarted where he is right now. And of course, I mean, you can't really talk about Back to the Future without discussing Huey Lewis in the News, right? That whole opening where Marty is just hitchhiking on his way to school because he's late, it seems to be a pretty mundane circumstance, but this is how you energetically open a movie. And speaking of energy, man, let's talk about Michael J. Fox, who might be one of the most lovable faces in Hollywood history. This is his signature role, without a doubt, and I think he captures the essence of Marty McFly down to a T. He's charming, he's likable, he can be kind of a bad boy, he can be kind of a punk, but also very, very dorky in a lot of ways. This guy's into science. He's hanging out with an eccentric doctor played by Christopher Lloyd, who, again, feels like it's his signature role. Dr. Emmett Brown could not be played by anybody else. Great Scott! 1.21 gigawatts! I think that's a quote that'll live rent-free in my head. And some of Christopher Lloyd's facial expressions in this movie, they are just unforgettable. Especially as you get closer to the finale and how the lightning is shifting and how the lightning strikes the clock tower, how the plan actually works. As ludicrous as the plan to get Marty home might be, the look on Christopher Lloyd's face is one I will never, ever forget. The first time I watched it, I was sitting there just in awe of how great this performance actually was. Because without really saying much, I could tell he was thinking, holy shit, this actually worked. And the two share really good chemistry as well. I love all the actors in this movie. Again, not one weak link. As uncomfortable as the storyline that Marty's mother is falling in love with him in 1955, Leah Thompson pulls it off very well. Crispin Glover is also a very dorky presence that's extremely lovable, and you feel so vindicated when he punches Biff Tannen in the face. Like, honestly, there's just so much about this movie to love. Like I said, time travel was not a topic that was explored a ton. I feel like there were some pieces of entertainment that did, but this was the movie that really put it in the limelight. This is the movie that honed in on the time travel. And yes, a lot of people might look at Back to the Future one time and think the plot is way too complicated. A lot of people might look at the final plan to get Marty home as incredibly complicated. Oh, you need some plutonium? Why don't I just go to the nearest local drugstore and get some? And that's the other thing. This movie can be very funny a lot of the time. Just phenomenal writing across the board. And again, I know there's a lot of people who might watch this in 2025 and they're like, what the hell? Why is Marty's mother falling in love with him? But that is one of the uncomfortable dangers of time travel. Stuff like that can and will happen. And just the mom thinking that Marty's name is Calvin Klein because he's wearing a pair of Calvin Klein underwear. Calvin Klein's name is written all over the waistband. That's just really funny. I mean, I know I might be thinking too deep on this matter, but in a movie about time travel, this movie, the fact that it opens up with a gigantic collection of cuckoo clocks, like the symbolism and the director and the cinematographer telling you what kind of movie you're in for, that is very real. And also, like, anybody can love this movie, right? Dog lovers especially, I feel like, adore Back to the Future. All because of Einstein. Oh, poor Einstein being the test subject in that DeLorean. Now, here's one drawback that I really didn't think about with Back to the Future until I rewatched it for the purposes of this review. How this movie ends. Like, it definitely feels like this movie is setting itself up for a sequel. Now, I get it. Robert Zemeckis and his collaborator Bob Gale on this story, they are catching lightning in a bottle here. And I know that they were struggling to create a story about time travel. Nothing quite clicked until this original movie, though. So, in hindsight, the fact that this original Back to the Future sort of ends on a cliffhanger is a little bizarre. Because I feel like nobody knew whether or not this movie was going to work. Some people in hindsight might look at it as a little bit pretentious that the screenwriters were like, this is going to work, and we got plans for more. We know you guys are going to like this. But you know, I'm not going to hold this movie back that much for it. Just because everything surrounding this film is so fucking good. It's the highest grossing movie of 1985. It's one of the greatest science fiction films ever constructed. It deserves its long-standing preservation in the National Film Registry. And I think it can be classified as a masterpiece in science fiction storytelling. It's the movie that put many of a famous name in Hollywood on the map. You could say it's also one of the most profitable movies ever made. It launched video games, theme park rides, an animated series, a musical, which I'm going to be seeing next year on tour. Like, there is no denying, Back to the Future is one of the most profitable IPs under the Universal umbrella you could think of. It's the movie that popularized time travel in many a blockbusters. And I think it still stands the test of time as one of the greatest films ever made. I'm going to give Back to the Future an A+. Because, I mean, what else were you guys expecting? And now that I think more and more about it, and the more time that goes by, like, I actually kind of want to review the sequels, I'm not going to lie. Because the sequel is set in 2015, 10 years ago. Holy crap. Like, looking back on part 2, like, let's see how much they got right out of 2015, and we'll look at part 3 as well. Let me know what your thoughts on Back to the Future are. How much nostalgia do you guys have for this movie? How much do you love it? Do you guys not like it for some reason? I'm looking forward to hearing all of your opinions down there. Hit that subscribe button if you're new, and tap on that thumbs up as well. That would be greatly appreciated. And stay tuned for more videos hitting this channel very soon as the summer season kicks into another gear. Y'all are the best. I cannot thank you guys enough for your support. And with all that being said, Back Talk, commence.